Well, hello. My name is Haines-Timmermans. I'm one of the many hosts for the Florida Aviation Network, and today I am in heaven for pilots. That's about as close as I can explain where I'm at. Another people would call it EAA AirVenture at Oshkosh, Wisconsin, where every year thousands of pilots fly their airplanes or come by planes, trains, or automobiles, or trucks, or RV campers even.
I've heard that.
to be at the greatest air show on earth, and a week of fun for pilots, and greet each other and see airplanes and see our shows and the like. Special guest I have with me today, this is Tom Haines. You recognize him, I imagine. Tom has been around AOPA for many, many years, and is joining me today. Tom is a fellow Bonanza pilot and a longtime advocate for all of us at AOPA. And Tom, I guess there's been, well, first of all, welcome back to Oshkosh again, like you are almost every year, right?
Yeah, thank you. This is, I've kind of lost track. I think this is number 33. You know, COVID messed us all up, but I think it's number 33.
Yeah. Most of us can't remember anything after COVID, and we blame everything on
Right.
COVID, but that's okay, I guess. We got to have some evil thing here that we can blame. So anyway, 2022 it dawned, and you were still working for AOPA, and then something happened. What was it?
Yeah, well, I guess what happened was COVID, for one thing. You know, it kind of, I think, caused a lot of people to reconsider what, your lives. You know, I lost a couple people in my life to COVID, unfortunately, and it caused you to kind of think. And so anyhow, I finally decided that after 34 years at AOPA, that it was time to look at another phase of life and move on and do something else. So I retired. I actually told the staff and Mark Baker and everybody last fall that was my plan, that in the spring I was going to retire. So in April I did.
You did?
I did.
Right about the time of Summit Fun, as I recall.
Right.
As I remember seeing you at Lakeland and congratulating you on a 34-year career at AOPA. That's an incredible. Not too many people stay with one organization that long, and but you were certainly an influence there, and just a long-staying person there. And so many of us have watched you on AOPA Live on Fridays or Saturdays when the thing came out, and now we're watching Warren and some other folks that have taken your place and the like. I remember the last show that you were on, where you thought you were going to do the normal AOPA Live on that Saturday morning, and there was some kind of technical interrupt, and then all of a sudden your two daughters came on and hosted the whole show, and pretty well surprised you, as I recall.
They did. I had no idea that was in the works. They had recorded a whole show that talked about my career, brought forward a bunch of stories from the past that we had done, video stories, and inserted into the show, and they captured my reaction to it at the same time on the screen. And yeah, I was blown away and moved by it. I got to tell you, it was kind of emotional.
We could see that with your little inset of your face live as they were showing all these people, and Harrison Ford spoke, and Mark Baker, and several other AOPA presidents that you worked under, and so it was just really a fitting accomplishment at the end of your career. It was really neat, really neat. So what's looking forward for you in retirement? What are you going to be doing?
Well, still doing some work for AOPA for a while, and writing occasionally, a column every other month for the rest of the year, and then maybe some beyond that too. And occasional story. I got the cover story in the September issue is mine about the Kodiak 900. So still doing some writing for AOPA, and it was just announced this week that I've joined the board of Redbird Flight Simulations.
Very good.
So I want to be able to help them out a little bit, and I continue to provide some content to pilot workshops, which I've been doing for a little while. So I want to work with those guys. It's fun to be able to share knowledge and experiences that I've had over the decades, and maybe help somebody out. And then just personally doing a lot of traveling. We've got a motorhome that I actually brought out here, so I'm camping this year for the second year. So that's been great fun. I've always flown in, and I kind of miss flying in, I will tell you, but it's also great fun to be at the campground. It's just a whole nother community over there.
Indeed it is. I've heard about that. I haven't had the chance to experience that. So I think we've got some B-roll of showing you in front of your camper, and so it looks like you're relaxing pretty well here. So even though you've retired, that's just kind of a general descriptor. It sounds like you're still going to be quite busy.
I hope so. I want to be busy, and I've got some other personal things I'm going to do, some charitable work that I want to get involved in with a little more flexible schedule. And then, like I said, using the motorhome and the airplane for traveling and seeing the country.
Good. And speaking of airplane, I understand there's also been a change in your aviation in the airplane that you've been flying. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I had an A36 Bonanza 1972 model for 21 or almost 22 years.
We actually flew together.
We
in that,
did,
didn't we?
yeah. We did a BPT, I think it was, there together.
Uh-huh.
And so it was a wonderful airplane, and I got approached by a couple of AOPA staffers who wanted to get involved. They wanted to get into aircraft ownership, and in the end, they convinced me that they wanted a newer airplane. So I actually sold mine, 72 model, to another AOPA employee and joined them in a 1998 one.
Wow.
A36 that is complete panel upgrade, fresh engine overhaul, and MT propeller, air conditioning, which we've been valuing this summer. And it's been great. It's a beautiful airplane and very capable, and love the new avionics in it too.
Good. It's nice to buy an airplane where everything is already complete and fixed the way you like it, and then you just step in and go fly. And you don't have to worry about, should I do this upgrade? Should I buy that? Should I do whatever? So that's great. That's great. So any trips planned in the Bonanza this summer, or still waiting on plans?
I've been doing some shorter trips. I went to a fly-in a couple of weekends ago up in Connecticut, and using it a little bit to go pilot workshops there in New Hampshire. So that was a trip up there a few weeks ago.
Nashua, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. So doing some of those kind of trips and just regional stuff. I haven't taken any long trips in it yet, although I was back and forth to Florida several times earlier in the year when I was still working for various aviation events. So it's been getting exercised.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good. Well, come see me in Florida. I'd love to fly with you again and see the new airplane. So that's good. So Tom, for a number of times you have attended proficiency training with the Bonanza Baron Pilot Training Group.
Right.
Tell us your thoughts on proficiency training and the value in it for pilots, your perspective.
Yeah. Well, it's super important. If nothing else, for insurance purposes, you get a discount and a better consideration for your insurance. But of course, the real reason is for safety, confidence, that sort of thing. And this new airplane that we got new to us airplane, we took delivery on November 1st, and I took it up for a local flight and left the next morning to go to Norfolk for a BPT, because I knew that new avionics to me, it's a G3X touch panel, which I'd flown a little bit before, and I knew the first thing to do that I should do is go fly with somebody who knows a lot more than I did. So went to the BPT, had a great weekend, learned a lot, exercised a lot of the systems in the airplane that maybe you don't normally use on a day-to-day basis. Had a GFC 500 autopilot, which again I'd flown a few times. It's a lot like the GFC 700 I've flown in other airplanes, but there were some tricks to it that I wasn't aware of, so I learned a lot.
Indeed. Well, thanks for your comments on proficiency training. Of course, I'm involved with BPT, but I couldn't agree more. Whether it's you or me, when I get a new airplane or get into a new airplane, I recognize and understand that it's valuable to get some training in that particular airplane from someone who knows a whole lot more than you do about the avionics, the airplane, and the like. Just last week, I was flying with a client. He had recently purchased a 58 Baron, and he wanted some proficiency training, and I recognized that, and I thought that was a good idea. I said, so what's the day job? And he said, well, I fly for Atlas Airlines. I fly a 747-800, and go, whoa, big jet to smaller twin-engine airplane. But he recognized the value in type-specific training and how important it is. Even though you can fly big stuff, flying littler things or little airplanes, it's a bit different. And the same way, if you were going up to a 747, there's a lot you'd have to learn. So yeah, proficiency training is good, and we at BPT and at other training organizations as well, we have pilots who are very familiar with the Beechcraft Bonanza and Baron airframe, and generally are familiar with almost all the avionics combinations of this IFR GPS navigator and this autopilot combination or any other combinations. And they are a bit tricky to work out until you understand the buttonology. I was flying with another client just a few weeks ago. He had had a new panel for about a year and a half, had spent probably in the neighborhood of $100,000 on it, and he thought he was using GPS steering, the roll steering command from it, and he wasn't. But he thought he was, and so I helped him just to do that, and he said, wow, that was worth the value. That was the value of the training right there, just learning how to turn GPS steering on. And so he was grateful, and I was happy to help him. Another thing I find with pilots is many of them don't know how to use a flight director, even though they've had one in the panel for many years. And they use the flight director, and they go, wow, this just makes so much sense. So type-specific training, proficiency training, good for all of us. We need to be trained and retrained because we atrophy. So
funny. Funny that you should mention flight director, because that was the one thing that was missing in my other airplane. The panel that I had, GFC 500, I had an S-Tech autopilot, which didn't drive a flight director. And having flown bigger airplanes, jets, and that sort of thing, the one thing I missed the most was a flight director.
Yeah.
And so when I was looking at making a change, one of the requirements was it's got to have a flight director.
Yeah. It makes hand flying so much more safer. Actually.
It does.
Yeah.
It really does.
Some people say that's cheating. I say, no, not really. You bought the airplane and have all this expensive equipment. Why wouldn't you want to use it? Right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Anyway, well, here we are at the air show. It's time to stop this interview and get on with visiting other friends and looking at airplanes and seeing an air show that will go on behind us. Here we are live at EA AirVenture 2022. My good friend Tom Haines. I'm Ron Timmermans with the Florida Aviation Network and the Bonanza Baron Pilot Training Program. Thanks for tuning in and watching us today.